Hello, and welcome to Freya's Tropical Garden. If you watched my last episode, you'll know that I'm planning for moving house at the moment, so there's a lot of change happening in my garden. But here's what we've got coming up for you in today's episode. Part 2 of my Eden Project visit looks at the rainforest biome, and I look at 10 plants you can grow in your garden that were around with the dinosaurs. But first, let's just see what's changed in my garden since the last episode. Spring is usually my favourite time of year in the garden. Everything's coming back to life again following the winter where everything just looks brown and dead. However, this year things are a bit different in my garden, and I've already started digging up plants ready to move house. Where before these areas of my garden would have looked green and leafy, now there are just bare holes and the weeds are taking over. In addition to that, I'm now taking part in No Mow May, so I'm letting the grass grow so that flowers will attract pollinators to the garden. All this means it's looking a bit of a mess at the moment. I've started by digging up the first palm tree I owned and one of the first plants to go into the ground in this garden. It's important to try and get as much root as possible, so we started to dig all the way around the tree. In many cases in my garden, this is restricted by other plants that are growing around it. So we've done the best we can to try and give it a decent sized root ball. And I've then cut off the majority of the leaves. Not only does this make it a little bit easier to access the tree while I'm digging it up, but it will also help the plant to recover from the shock of losing so many of its roots, as it won't have so many leaves to have to support. Despite trying to keep a big root ball, I've actually lost quite a lot of root in this one. I prioritised my echium as being one of the first plants to be dug up because it's still quite small. Echiums don't like to be moved, they don't like their roots to be disturbed, so I am expecting this to have some problems. But if I let it grow any bigger, it's only going to make those problems worse. Again, I've tried to take as much soil as I can with me to make sure that the roots aren't disturbed too much, and I've given it a nice big pot. However, even with this care, you can see that a week later, the edges of the leaves are already starting to show signs of distress. I've now dug up all of the plants that had only recently been planted in my newest bed, and now I'm going to be sowing grass seed to return this patch back to grass. To do so, I must first prepare the soil by raking it over and loosening the soil. This helps to get rid of the weeds, but it also helps to make sure that the seed doesn't get washed away the moment it gets watered. I then applied a generous amount of grass seed over the entire area and water it in well. My Camerops humilis has already been moved from its original location in the garden, so I know that it will cope well with this process. However, when it does get planted in the new garden, growth will be slower than usual for a couple of years while it settles back in. Once again, we're struggling with this spade and we're hacking through the roots, and it's causing us to lose a lot more than I would have liked. Although I'm sure the plant will be absolutely fine and recover well. Once dug up, the plants are being watered well and kept in a shady location, and I'm trimming away many of the lower branches to make sure that the plant has a chance to recover. One thing I'm having to be very careful of is that there are still a number of plants that are dormant under the ground. And as I'm digging up, I am slicing through the occasional rhizome that I didn't realise was so close. Now, following my difficulty using the spade to dig up the plants, I have now purchased this Root Slayer spade. This is a spade with a serrated edge, specially designed for digging up plants, and I feel with the number of plants that I'm going to have to dig up in my garden, this is going to be a very welcome addition. I've already found that not only is it making the manual work much easier, but I am also saving more of the root ball as well. I was particularly keen to get my ginkgo dug up as soon as possible as the leaves have already emerged. As you can see, it's already got quite a lot of foliage on the tree. So once again, I've had to cut and remove the lower branches of this, and this provides the perfect opportunity to take some cuttings. And of course, taking cuttings will serve as a useful backup in case I do lose the main tree. I've taken heel cuttings from the branches that I've cut off and planted them directly into a propagator with perlite and sphagnum moss mixed into the soil and a lid to help keep the humidity in. Elsewhere in the garden, the red hot pokers are now flowering. Although the earliest flowers were attacked by slugs, there are now plenty more flowers coming through and they are looking much better. Once the Nephophia has finished flowering, I will be digging it up and dividing it. There are also plenty of arum lily flowers at the moment. This one with the white spots is a variety called Hercules. These yellow iris flowers are also lovely at this time of year. I filmed this a couple of weeks ago, but they have now finished flowering, so they're ready to be dug up and divided now. And actually they were getting a bit lost behind the gunnera, so when I do move I'll find a much more appropriate location for them. My peony bowl of beauty is also flowering at the moment. Although they don't flower for long, I absolutely love these huge vibrant flowers. And this year my lilies are not doing so well. The flowers on this one have been attacked by slugs before they even opened, while the leaves on my tiny invader were eaten down to the ground. I have several voodoo lily flowers coming up around the garden, however. The Soramartum flowers are all opening at the moment. These exotic looking flowers attract flies because they smell of dead meat. However, if that puts you off from getting them, don't worry, because they only last for a day and then the flowers die back. In fact, if you're not in your garden every day, then there's a good chance you might miss it. The Dracunculus is also a variety of voodoo lily. However, this one flowers further up the stem, and the flower is much larger. I'm expecting this flower to open any day now. The Spotty Dotty is another plant where you could miss the flowers if you're not careful, as they flower underneath the leaf. These ones are nearly over now. And while my magnolias have also finished flowering now, this is the first time I've seen one actually produce seed pods, so I'm watching this with interest. And the begonias are re-emerging around the garden again. This is the Santa Cruz, that flowered so well last year. And the Starshine Bronze Papaya, which I bought last year. Once again, the Begonia Silver Spirit, which I left in the ground over winter, has survived. Begonia Rex are normally considered to be houseplants, so I did try another variety this year to see what would happen, and the Begonia Rex Silver Lace has also survived this winter, which is a relief because the plant that I brought into the house didn't survive. I took cuttings of my Tradescantia, which is also not supposed to be hardy. However, the one that I left in the ground has started to grow back again from ground level. I wasn't expecting this at all, so that was a nice surprise. And my Alocasia, which I showed you in my last video, had survived, has now put out a new leaf and is looking very happy. And this Amaryllis should have been dug up for Christmas, but I lost where the bulb was, so I need to dig this up now before the leaves get eaten by slugs. In my last video I showed you how I coppiced my Paulonia, and now you can see that the leaves are starting to grow back already. And my Oxalis has started to grow back. I'll need to get this one dug up fairly soon, because once other plants grow around it, it does get a bit lost. I will be dividing this as well, so hopefully we'll have some plants to sell. The leaves on my gunnera are bigger than they've ever been before, and I suspect this will be a challenge to dig up. And I find this is the best time of year for the Persicaria. The leaves are so vibrant in colour, and the plants also have good shape. Last time I showed you that my Nephophia northii wasn't doing so well, and in fact since then it's even been flattened by a parasol that fell on it. However, as you can see, it is now flowering, so I have every confidence that it's going to be absolutely fine. And my Tetrapanic steroidal giant has now got 3 pups growing at the base. I'll let these grow a little bit bigger and then I'll separate them and pot them up. Now, digging up my garden has given me the opportunity to divide lots of plants, and I'm going to be selling some of them at my first fair. Now, I'm going to be at the St Thomas More's Catholic Primary School Summer Fair on Saturday the 22nd of June. This is in Hooks Lane in Bedhampton, Havant in Hampshire. I've started dividing plants like my Nephophia nobilis, or giant red hot poker, and bamboos. And I'm also taking plenty of cuttings of various different plants to sell. So please come along if you're in the area. Coming up next, we've got part 2 of my video on the Eden Project. The Eden Project first opened in a disused china clay quarry in 2001. It's a world-renowned experimental garden which has become a must-see attraction near St Austell in Cornwall. The Rainforest Biome houses plants from tropical Asia, Africa and South America. The temperature inside the biome is kept between 18 and 35 degrees C and can get very hot in summer. It houses the biggest rainforest in captivity, with over 1,000 species of plants. Although the majority of the plants here won't survive a UK winter, some may be grown as annuals or make a great houseplant, so I'll talk you through a few of the plants that you can see here. Sanchezia speciosa is a shrub native to Ecuador and Peru that will grow up to 2.4 meters in height. It has large variegated leaves with a distinctive stripe marking. Grown as a houseplant, it prefers bright indirect light and moist soil. The top third of the soil should be allowed to dry out between waterings. Rapis excelsa is also known as the broadleaf lady palm and is native to southern China and Taiwan. It can grow up to 4 meters in height and grows well indoors in low light positions. Outdoors, it should not be placed in full sun as leaves will burn. It can withstand temperatures of -7 degrees for short periods, but grows better if kept above 2 degrees. Gopertia zebrina is also known as Calathea zebrina and is native to Brazil. They prefer humid environments, so regular misting is recommended, and it grows best with medium to bright indirect light and lightly moist soil. Musa velutina is also known as the pink banana due to the vibrant colour of its flowers and fruit. Native to the Himalayas, it's a fast-growing plant, although rarely exceeds 2.5 meters tall. It's hardy to -5 degrees, but grows well in containers and can be moved into a warmer location during the winter months. Acalypha hispida is also known as the chenille plant. It's a striking evergreen shrub native to New Guinea and Malaysia with unusual tassel-like flowers. In the UK, it can be grown as a houseplant or outdoors as an annual. It grows best in part shade, avoiding direct sun in the afternoon. Pilea spruceana is a clump-forming evergreen plant in the nettle family. It needs bright indirect light indoors, although can grow in lower light, but the leaves may lose their distinctive colouring. It should not be allowed to dry out completely. Monstera deliciosa is also known as the Swiss cheese plant and is commonly grown as a houseplant in the UK. Native to southern Mexico and Panama, it can thrive in a variety of indoor light levels and humidities, making it very easy to care for, although it may not put out much growth without higher humidity. Heliconia psittacorum is native to the Caribbean and South America. It's an evergreen perennial with vibrant coloured flowers, adapted to be pollinated by hummingbirds. When grown as a houseplant, it prefers bright indirect light. It can be kept outdoors in summer, but is only hardy to around 13 degrees C. Hemigraphis repanda is also known as dragon's tongue and has a beautiful purple foliage with almost grassy-looking leaves. It's an easy-to-care-for houseplant, ideal for dish gardens and terrariums, or it can be grown outdoors as an annual for ground cover in a shady spot. Colocasia fontainesi is a beautiful variety of elephant ear with dark green foliage and black stems. It grows best in a sunny or partially shady spot with moist soil throughout summer, and then can be lifted and dry stored over winter. Hibiscus rosa sinensis is also known as the Chinese hibiscus. It's a bushy evergreen shrub or small tree growing to between 2 and 5 meters tall and producing stunning flowers in summer and autumn. Although the flowers only last a day or two, they can flower for extended periods in a bright greenhouse or conservatory. Begonia breviremosa is a vibrant plant native to New Guinea, commonly known as the begonia vine. They grow best in bright to medium indirect lighting and prefer more humid conditions, although it shouldn't be misted without good air circulation. Trimesia martinicensis is also known as the walking iris and is native to South America and the West Indies. It has flat strap-like leaves and short-lived yellow and bronze flowers, blooming all year, but best from spring to autumn. It tolerates both drought and flooding and can be left neglected in a glass of water for years. Brainia distica is a shrub with attractive variegated leaves, also known as the snowbush, which can grow 2 meters tall. It's native to the Pacific Islands and can be grown indoors as a perennial or outdoors as an annual, where it prefers dappled shade and constantly moist soil.
Typhonodorum lindleyanum is an aroid known as the water banana and is native to Madagascar, Zanzibar, and Mauritius. It grows well in shallow ponds in warm climates and does require wet conditions and full sun to thrive. Indoors, it can be grown in aquariums or other systems that allow adequate water. Cocos nucifera is better known as the coconut tree. This plant is difficult to grow as a houseplant long term and needs lots of bright light, including direct sunlight in the morning or late afternoon to avoid collapse. It requires high humidity and the top half of the soil should dry out between watering. Pandanus utilis is also known as the screw pine and is native to Madagascar. It's an evergreen broadleaf tree with distinctive prop roots which provide support. It can be grown in the UK in the conservatory or heated greenhouse with plenty of light and should be watered sparingly in winter. Calophyllum inophyllum is also known as tamanu and is native to tropical Asia. It has glossy oval-shaped leaves, sweet-scented white flowers, and round green fruits. The plant is so toxic its fruit can be used as rat poison, and its sap was once used to tip arrowheads, as it's fatal if introduced to the bloodstream. The plant grows well in frost-free sandy coastal areas. Hyaphorbe larginicalis is commonly known as the bottle palm due to the unusual swelling of its trunk. It's endangered in the wild, growing only on Round Island in Mauritius. It's a dwarf palm, growing to around 3 meters tall and is drought and salt tolerant. It can be grown indoors in bright indirect light and is hardy to 0 degrees C. Catharanthus roseus is a perennial known as the Madagascar periwinkle. It's an evergreen plant with glossy green leaves and phlox-like flowers. In the UK, it can be grown in a bright conservatory or outdoors during the summer in full sun and tolerates most types of soil. Chrysobalanus ikaiko, also known as the cocoa plum, is a low shrub or bushy tree. Emerging leaves are yellow-green or red-tinged, becoming a leathery dark green as they age. Native to Florida, the Caribbean, Central and South America, it grows well in swamps, moist forests, coastal beaches and thickets. Outdoors, it prefers full or part sun and is drought-tolerant, but not hardy in the UK. Rapis humilis is also known as the slender lady palm, forming bamboo-like clumps and is native to China. Although they can grow to 6 meters tall, their size can be controlled by growing in a pot. It's easy to grow indoors, being tolerant of low light conditions, although it prefers bright indirect light. Casuarina cunninghamiana is also known as the river oak and is a rare tree native to Australia and New Guinea. It's a flowering tree with pine-like foliage, and it grows well in poor or sandy soils and is reported to be hardy down to -3. Although there are reports of trees growing in the UK and Ireland as far north as Swansea at least. Ravenala madagascariensis is commonly known as the traveller's palm, and although it is native to Madagascar, it's not a true palm. It's actually related to Strelitzia, or the bird of paradise. It grows up to 10 meters tall, preferring full sun and a sheltered spot. In the UK, they can be grown in containers so that they can be brought into a frost-free conservatory or greenhouse over winter. Heptaplurum actinophyllum is also known as Schefflera actinophyllum and is native to the tropical rainforests of Australia and New Guinea. The shape of its leathery leaves has given it the nickname the Queensland umbrella tree. It prefers full sun or partial shade, but this is not a hardy variety and will need to be brought inside for winter in the UK. Terminalia catappa is a large tropical tree native to Asia, Australia, the Pacific, Madagascar, and the Seychelles. It's also known as the Indian almond and can grow up to 35 meters tall. It sheds its leaves twice a year, and they turn a vibrant red before falling. It grows best in full sun, but is frost tender, and temperatures of -4 degrees would kill it. Tychosperma macarthurii is commonly known as the MacArthur palm. It is native to Australia and New Guinea, and is a clumping or multi-stemmed palm growing up to 10 meters tall. It's often grown indoors as a tropical houseplant, but will need plenty of bright, indirect light. Calliandra hematocephala is also known as the red powder puff. It's a rambling shrub or small tree with pinnate silky leaves and beautiful red powder puff flowers. It grows best in full sun or part shade and is drought tolerant. It prefers temperatures above 15 degrees C but can be kept indoors all year round. Phoenicophoreum bossygianum is endemic to the Seychelles and is found in the undergrowth of moist forests, but is also able to grow in a variety of conditions, such as rocky outcrops where drought is severe. Leaves can grow up to 2 meters in length and have a crinkled appearance. It can grow in full sun once mature, but will not tolerate UK winters. Ochnus cellulata is also known as the Mickey Mouse bush and is native to South Africa. It grows between 1 and 2 meters high, producing fragrant yellow flowers in spring. It grows well in both sun or shade and is hardy to around -2, but grows well as a houseplant with plenty of light. Pritchardia pacifica is also known as the Fiji fan palm and is native to Tonga. It is a solitary palm which can grow up to 15 meters tall with fan-shaped rounded leaves. It prefers moist soil and full sun to part shade and can be grown as a houseplant in the UK in a bright room. Pilea cadieri is a bushy evergreen perennial, also known as the aluminium plant. In the UK, it can be grown outdoors as an annual and grows best in full sun or partial shade in moist soil, or indoors it is an ideal plant for terrariums or bottle gardens. Strobilanthes alternata is also known as the waffle plant and is native to Indonesia. It's a spreading mound-shaped plant with distinctive leaves that have beautiful purple undersides. It makes an ideal houseplant and does not need high humidity, although it does prefer it. Soil should remain moist but never too wet or dry. If soil does dry out, then the plant will droop but recover if watered soon after.
Coming up next, we're going to talk about 10 plants that you can grow today that were around with the dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs walked the earth over 65 million years ago in a landscape that would have looked very different to the world today. Just like the dinosaurs, many of the plants that grew in the Jurassic jungles are extinct today. However, there are some surprising varieties that are at the very least a very close relative of plants found in the fossil record. Although I use the term Jurassic Jungle, this video does include plants from all eras when dinosaurs walked the earth. At number 1 is the cycad. Although they may look like palm trees, cycads are a distinct group of plants which reproduce by forming cones. They're more closely related to conifers. Cycads first appeared around 280 million years ago and later established themselves as one of the most common plants in the world. It is believed that the dinosaurs would not have eaten their toxic leaves, but instead fed on their fruit, spreading the seeds in their excrement. Cycads almost disappeared with the dinosaurs, and thousands of cycad species are now extinct. Those that remain are in most cases endangered due to slow growth and slow reproduction. However, cycads do have long lifespans. The oldest cycads are thought to be around 1,000 years old, possibly more. They can survive many extreme conditions, growing in sand, cliffs, and even rock. At number 2 are restios. These are most closely related to grasses and sedges, although they predate them by a long time, and are thought to have evolved around 100 million years ago in the Cretaceous period. They were found growing on the supercontinent of Gondwana, which included the land of modern-day South America through to New Zealand, and started to break up during the Jurassic period. Our knowledge of this plant on prehistoric Earth comes from findings of fossilized pollen. Although not much more is known, restios would again have been an unlikely source of food for dinosaurs, as they are largely inedible, and only specialized insects feed on them today. Restio varieties are found in different environments, however, they prefer nutrient-poor acidic conditions. Most varieties are also adapted to survive fire, with the exception of Thamnocortus spicigerus, in which fire not only kills the parent plant, but the seed as well. Restios are dioecious, which means that separate plants produce male and female flowers, which are pollinated by the wind. Number 3 is the Wollemi pine. Fossil records show the Wollemi pine was living alongside dinosaurs around 200 million years ago. In fact, they were only known from the fossil records and thought to be extinct until 1994, when a small group of living trees were discovered growing in the Wollemi National Park in New South Wales. In the time of the dinosaurs, the Wollemi pine would have covered the whole of Australia, but the plant is now considered critically endangered, most likely due to forest fires. In fact, in 2020, firefighters saved the last of the wild trees. However, conservation efforts have been made to grow trees worldwide in suitable climates, including the UK. The Wollemi pine is thought to live between 500 to 1,000 years and is most closely related to the monkey puzzle tree. Male and female cones appear on the same tree, with female cones appearing on higher branches than the narrower male cones. Number 4 is the tree fern. Tree ferns have been around in fossil records stretching back to the Jurassic and Triassic periods more than 200 million years ago. They're thought to have existed on Earth before both cone-bearing and flower-bearing plants. In fact, tree ferns and their closest relatives provide much of the Earth's fossil fuel. Of course, tree ferns are not trees, as they do not have woody trunks, but their trunks are formed from roots. However, before tree ferns, there were plants known as seed ferns, which did have woody trunks and fern-like leaves, but produced seeds rather than spores. These are now extinct. Tree ferns would have been a likely source of food for dinosaurs, with the pith of Dicksonia varieties being a good source of starch. Tree ferns are very slow growing, with Dicksonia antarctica taking around 50 years to reach full size, but they can live for well over 100 years, with some species being known to live for over 500 years. At number 5 is the Ginkgo biloba. This is one of the oldest living tree species in the world. It is the sole survivor of a group of trees that predate the dinosaurs, with fossils of ginkgo leaves discovered that date back more than 200 million years and are almost identical to the leaves of the modern tree. In fact, the ginkgo tree is so unique today, it is the only one in its genus, family, order, and subclass. It's also the only living connection between ferns and conifers. Today, the ginkgo is registered as endangered. Although cultivated trees are grown around the world, they remain rare in the wild, with only a small number of natural populations in China. There is no evidence of ginkgo seeds in dinosaur droppings. However, it is believed that the strong smell of the seed would have attracted dinosaurs or prehistoric mammals to eat them in order to disperse them. At number 6 is the gunnera. Often nicknamed dinosaur food, the huge leaves of the gunnera add a very prehistoric feel to a garden. It is thought to date back to 150 million years ago, with fossilized gunnera pollen having been found dating back to 93 million years at least, and fossilized leaves dating to 80 million years ago. Like the restios, gunneras are thought to have evolved on the supercontinent Gondwana, thriving in the warm, boggy locations and becoming very widespread. As the supercontinent broke up, some areas where it had previously thrived became inhospitable to the gunnera and its numbers fell. There are several species of gunnera. However, if you're thinking of adding one to your UK Jurassic Jungle, you should be aware of the legislation that prevents the planting of Gunnera tinctoria or the newly named X cryptica, which was formerly thought to be Manicata in the UK. Number 7 is the monkey puzzle tree. Its true name is Araucaria araucana, and is thought to be the most ancient conifer on the planet. Despite its sharp leaflets, it's thought to have been one of the main sources of food for dinosaurs in the Jurassic period, around 150 million years ago, and may possibly be the reason for the evolution of the long necks of the sauropods. The monkey puzzle is a huge tree growing to around 30 meters tall. However, in the time of the dinosaurs, the fossil records show a close relative that otherwise looked almost identical would have grown to an estimated 2 to 4 times bigger. Monkey puzzle trees are normally either male or female, although there are trees that have produced both male and female cones. They are slow growing, but they can live for around 1,000 years. At number 8 is the Podocarpus. This tree is actually a conifer and can basically be seen as an evolution of leaves. Growing in the wet tropical forests of the supercontinent Gondwana, these leaves would have likely helped the Podocarpus to adapt. However, less is known about their taxonomy than any other large conifer genus. The earliest reliable occurrence of Podocarpaceae is from the Jurassic era, with scale-like leaves, but the genus is likely to have diversified, resembling modern varieties in the late Cretaceous. Podocarpus dioecious evergreen shrubs, although, as with the monkey puzzle, it has been known to produce male and female cones. They generally live for around 150 years, although some varieties lived up to at least 700 years. At number 9 is the magnolia. Amongst the first flowering plants to evolve, the magnolia tree is around 90 million years old, dating to the late Cretaceous period. As this predates the evolution of bees, the magnolia relied on beetles to pollinate the flowers, developing tough leathery petals to protect the flowers from damage. As the beetles fed on the pollen, the flowers do not produce nectar, and flower before many insects appear in spring, therefore they seldom set seed. Magnolia used to be prevalent in Europe before the Ice Age restricted it to Southeast Asia and southern North America. Although there are many planted ornamentals, there are no native wild magnolias in Europe. The closest relative of the magnolia is Liriodendron, or the tulip tree. Unfortunately, very little is known about the evolution of flowers, largely as their delicate structures do not fossilize easily. Finally, at number 10 are ferns. I have kept this separate from tree ferns and saved the best for last because ferns were one of the first big plants to live on land around 350 million years ago, helping to make oxygen and therefore preparing the earth for other life to begin. Ferns are usually identified by their large frond-like leaves that carry reproductive spore-producing organs called sporangia. Of course, early ferns were a little different from the ones we know today, and it wasn't until the Cretaceous period that many of our modern fern families started to appear, with the exception of the Osmundaceae family, which has been dated to the Jurassic era. There are an estimated 12,000 species of ferns. However, they are believed to have been much more abundant on prehistoric Earth, with an estimate that there are 9 species in the fossil record for every 1 species living today. This is not an exhaustive list, and in some cases there is still a lot of uncertainty regarding just how old many plants are and just how genetically similar their modern counterparts might be. I have tried to focus on plants where at least some varieties can grow outdoors in a UK climate, especially in the milder areas. Other plants dating to around this time include horsetails, which are actually most closely related to ferns, the Piper nigrum, or the black pepper, and the Protea, which are amongst the first flowering plants. Conifers were also abundant. However, if you are looking to create a landscape that time forgot, I hope I've been able to give you some ideas.
Well, that's all we've got time for today. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I look forward to seeing you next time on Freya's Tropical Garden. If you're enjoying the content of Freya's Tropical Garden, then please help this channel grow by subscribing. Every new subscriber is appreciated, and by turning on notifications to my videos, you can also make sure that you don't miss any episodes in future. You can also follow me on social media, where I'll release links to my latest videos, as well as share my flower of the day. You can follow me on X, Instagram, Threads, Facebook, or join my Facebook group to engage in discussions and share your own photos. Freya's Tropical Garden webpage also has links to my videos and helpful advice. And now, in order to support the continued growth of this channel, there is an option of becoming a member, which will give you access to a private Facebook group where I'll be running monthly competitions exclusively for members, as well as additional exclusive content. And as always, I welcome your feedback in the comments below.